Accessing.
When TV and radio collide.
Love it.
Wow. This is what you get. You're listening to JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars.
Don't touch that thing!
On 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Our program, as always, is brought to you by G2G Bars, all natural ingredients and no preservatives. The G2G Bar is perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. Parker's kind of I got to get Parker on the G2G Bar. He's always bringing something healthy. And maybe you're like Parker, one of our techs here at KSL Sports. He's the only one that eats well, by the way, of any of us. So you could do the G2G Bar, and you can improve your life with the protein bar. Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, etc., all in the refrigerated section. Easy enough to find there. We were just having a conversation off the air about, the difference that somebody like a guy like Jack Kelly could make. And I'm one of the guys here at the booth, at the Advanced Windows booth, who may or may not have – I'm trying to think because there's probably a lot of them who played edge rusher for the University of Utah.
Several guys.
So I'm not saying anybody in particular.
Let's not single out one.
No. But he mentioned – we'll call him N. Orchard. No, that probably gives it away. Let's call him Nate O.
That's better.
It's an old Simpsons joke. He said, look, that's going to be a punch in the mouth going from Weber State to but like, what's the hope that BYU fans get? They go, just be like Eddie Heckard, no big deal. Be one of the better defenders on the team. That's all we ask of you.
That's it. Oh, another Weber State guy. He better be that good.
But that's the thing is, like, he mentioned in particular that position because he played it, and being asked to be a contributor right off the bat against tackles that you have never faced in the FCS level.
Guys that are 6'7", 325 that'll just swallow you up.
That will meet you at at the point of attack because they're as quick as you are.
Yeah. On
the feet. So that's the part where you go, okay, is he ready to step up to that next level? I think it's an advantage to be able to go. I mean, you heard Jay Hill in the last segment there saying what? I coached him. He knows how I coach, right? And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. And that's the advantage, too, and be like, I like this guy. Jay Hill handpicks guys a little bit, right? If they hit the transfer portal, he'll go, why not? I know what you're like. If a guy hits the transfer portal and then they go, hey, coach, remember me? And then he's all, huh?
Actually.
Like, that's not Jack Kelly. That's not Eddie Heckard, right? Like, those are guys who he knew could make an impact. And as soon as they hit the transfer portal, come on down to Provo, man. Let's go.
Sure enough, those guys made a big impact
Sure.
last year.
And you're hoping that Jack Kelly can be that guy too. And Tyler Batty certainly is as well. Like, that's just a guy who needs to make that breakout happen.
They just need more guys that make big plays defensively, especially up front.
He didn't come back. Tyler Batty didn't, so that he could just have another ho-hum year. He wants to be able to perform. All right. We're at the home show here in Sandy at the Expo Center. We're at the Advanced Window Products booth, which means we're bringing you crazy deals. They're doing $3,500 off. The $3,000 off 10 windows or more, plus a $500 factory discount that you're only getting today that I basically snuck in on my own. You're welcome, but also I'm sorry.
Someone's not getting a birthday because
It might be me. It might be me. So Advanced Window Products, 801-850-9100 is where we are at the booth right here. But let's kick off the hours we always do with the cut, and let's jump in right here. Let's have a little college basketball discussion prior to our conference tournament situation that's going to be happening next week. So let's hit it with the cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Okay. Well, let's start off a little bit here because last night, Utah, a 40-point night out of Carlson, the big man for the University of Utah, and a loss in Corvallis that may be a bridge. Well, no, it is. It's a bridge too far now for this Utah team to be able to get into the NCAA tournament, barring a miracle of them winning the Pac-12 championship tournament. Will you explain to me the difference of where we were a month and a half ago on this Utah team, JJ, and now going into this week, we had said, look, you got to sweep the road here in Oregon to be able to make any kind of noise, and they are firmly in that not on the bubble anymore, I think, type of a situation. They are firmly off of it. What happened to Craig Smith's group this year?
Yeah, well, they were off to a great start. You remember the BYU win, and we look back on that. That's a pretty darn good win. They had a really good non-conference. They performed really well. I remember seeing them as high as 5 on bracketology, even in early January. But what happened is 2 things. Number 1, injuries. Raleigh Worcester, who I would say is probably the floor general of that team, a really important cog in what they're doing. Not their best player, but their engine, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
at the point guard position, well, he's out, and so they haven't had him. Injuries start to stack up. They finally get Davon Smith out there, but they were missing something with Worcester, and then they just can't win on the road. And what happens in March, if you can't win on the road in January and February, you don't get to play in March. That's how it works.
Sure.
And this team struggled mightily on the road. We saw it last night. That was a bad loss. That was a quad 3 loss last night. Now, are they completely out of this? No. But Lenardi's latest that he just put out today, Utah's the 4th team out. And Colorado is now vaulted ahead of them after that loss last night. Utah's got a game against Oregon on Saturday, and then the conference tournament to try to impress the committee. And I think they've run out of time. If I'm honest, they've run out of time unless –
Is there a version of them not winning it, but is it if they get to the championship game? Is it if they win 2 games?
I don't know what
kind
their
of in that
seed's going to be. I'd have to look at the bracket. I feel like they'd have to beat at least one of Washington State and Arizona, if not both. Now, obviously, if you're going to beat both, that probably means you end up winning the tournament. You're in anyway. But they need quad 1 wins to boost their resume, and the opportunities just are not there anymore.
Sure.
They're just not there. Oregon is not a tournament team this year, so that's not an opportunity on the road this weekend. And then who do they match up with first round in the Pac-12 tournament? Do they survive that matchup? I don't know. I'm painting you a picture of what they would need to do. I just don't think there's enough opportunity there. They've got to probably go down to Vegas and win that tournament.
Okay, going off of that, from the start that they had, and it was at one point, it was like Utah 5, BYU 6, Utah State 7. Like we were having that conversation, 6 weeks ago.
And Weber State was hot at that point too.
Yes, and so then we're going. And I still have hopes just because you sold me on Dylan Jones and what he could do.
He's got to win 3 games in Starch Madness. That's it.
That's it. and again, a superstar like him, that's the kind of guy. That's the kind of effect he could have. But now, what's the future for Craig Smith look like? Because he is finishing up his 3rd year. Is that where we're at here?
Yes.
Is he halfway through his contract?
Halfway through his 6-year contract,
which was a historic contract, which was a big number. That was a big number. And so, my question is. What are we doing? What are we doing here? Like what's Utah doing? Are they staring at the possibility of having to? I mean, is Craig Smith long for this job? What does he have to do to stick around? Obviously, his ability is not questioned, but maybe the recruiting is at a different level than. And it is. It's hard to get it. Look, it's not easy to recruit, to a place that hasn't had consistent success, but. Larry Kay had issues. Now, Coach Craig Smith, after this year, is now being looked at and going, what's going on here? After there was that energy, after there was something exciting there for at least a moment.
Well, obviously, they got to get better players. That's obvious. But more than that, there's just got to be depth. They've got to do a better job with the scholarships that they have out there. They've got to have more depth. I think depth really hurt them this year, and you saw that. As I mentioned, the Worcester injury. All of a sudden, that's a big loss, and they don't really have anybody that's ready to step up in that role. They've got to recruit better.
Okay.
I think everybody would agree that they have to recruit better. Craig Smith's any coach, including Craig Smith, only as good as his players. Why was he successful at Utah State? Well, he had a legend in Sam Merrill. He had an NBA center, Nemish Queta, who's playing for the Boston Celtics, who have a chance to win an NBA championship this year. And he had Justin Bean. I could go on. They had really good players at Utah State when he came in and took over that program.
Oh, not when but he didn't bring him in. That's what you're saying.
He did not. And I think that's what he's got to prove is he's got to go out and get guys in that program through his recruiting and build a roster of his guys. And right now, I mean, Brandon Carlson's the best player on that team by far, but he was there previously. So he's got to go out and recruit better. Now, will he get a chance to do that? That's not for me to say. And I'll never come on this show and say I think anybody should be fired. I'm not going to do that.
No.
But let me tell you this. He's 3 years into a 6-year contract. He has a $12.6 million guarantee over the life of that contract.
Jeez.
So if they decided to pass at the end of this year and they decide to punt, they got to buy him out for $6.3 million for the half of the contract. They just barely got done doing that with Coach K.
It's a tall ask.
That was a 6.8 buyout.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do this again 3 years later. I don't think Mark Harlan wants to do that. But you got to look at where they're at. Is this going to get better next year? What does the future look like? Brandon Carlson's gone. They're not going to have Brandon Carlson.
This is a team that's had historically multiple trips to the Final Four and a national championship appearance, and everybody is like, how do you get to that spot again?
National championships.
National championships,
they have a history.
Of course.
They have a tradition
yes.
that at one point was probably top 10 in college basketball. And that feels like forever ago. The Magic and the Huntsman hasn't been there for a while. We've looked at this year. Alex, it's been so much fun to watch BYU do what they're doing and to see the electric atmosphere at the Marriott Center. Then you go up to the Spectrum, and you see that place on fire. Danny Sprinkle doing what he's done. I mean, Aggie basketball's never been healthier.
Can we look, all the Utah needs
Why
to do.
is Utah struggling?
I got it for them. They just need to follow the BYU model, and that is go to the Big 12, and then you'll be fine.
You know what? That'll solve your problems.
Everybody who goes, remember, I mean, at this time last year, it was like, what is Mark Pope going to do? Like when they were in the throes of one of their worst seasons ever.
What you're
saying in the past 15 years.
Kind of tongue-in-cheek a little bit there, but you know what?
Might ask for iron on iron kind of
It's going to be really interesting
situation.
if Craig Smith is still the coach next season. And, you know, I don't see why not. He's under contract. I'm not starting anything there. But obviously, when you don't meet expectations, you're going to look hard at things, and you have to look at your program and see where you're at. They're going to have to do a lot of that in the offseason. But as you go into the Big 12, it is a kind of a fresh start, and the expectations are not going to be the same. In fact, you're going to have less expectation going to the Big 12 because that league's so good, and you're adding Arizona to it as well, and Colorado's pretty good too.
So, on the bracketology side of things, I didn't want to make this totally a what's Utah's problem kind of deal, but obviously last night after the loss to Oregon State, everyone got kind of punched in the gut, and you went, I don't think that this is a tournament team anymore. On the flip side, because we have been speaking so highly of both BYU and Utah State all this year, in a shock way, by the way, equally a shock for both results, I think. BYU right now sits at the number 5 seed, so they would be like the second 4 seed or 5 seed rather in the current bracket, and Utah State is the third 6 seed. Like that's what we're talking about here is the difference.
That's awesome.
Right? An insane season for those two teams, and they continue to just obviously BYU's loss at Iowa State didn't take them too far down because people were expecting that it would have been a wild thing to try to figure out what bracketology was going to look like out of the Big 12.
Their net ranking didn't change.
No, it did not. It did not at all. And it shouldn't. I mean, you're going into Ames. No one won there this year. Everybody looked foolish in that building until BYU. BYU, I think, after like 11 seconds in the second half, like held a lead longer than anybody had in the second half in Ames, and that was a team that had the lead until the last, 3.5 minutes essentially. So, all right, what do we have here? Oh my goodness! First of all, the cut is as always brought to you this hour by the folks at Doug Smith Dealerships, an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, Ram. Visit the Doug Smith dealerships. We appreciate them being on board with us as well. American Fork and Spanish Fork, respectively. Great service starts with great know-how, and nobody knows like Doug. Hey, Doug. Now, let me give a phone number out here. It's going to be to win some tickets. So you call us right now. We got some tickets to Real Salt Lake versus the Colorado Rapids on March 9th. That is mañana. JJ, so you know what that means? You call and win the tickets right now. We're going to get you those tickets ASAP so you can be at that match tomorrow at America First Field. 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-9663. Get a pair of tickets to Real Salt Lake and the Colorado Rapids tomorrow right here in Sandy. So we are at the Salt Lake Home and Garden Show at the
All the latest news and notes from the league and the locals in the NFL. JJ and Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, welcome back. You know what that music means. NFL Blitz, we're doing a little bit earlier this week. We're anticipating a BYU player coming right off of the practice field. They're mid-spring practices right now, anticipating a BYU player to walk off the field around that 5:30 time frame. We're even told maybe it's going to be Tyler Batty. Keep our fingers crossed. We'll ask him about that same conversation we were having about what Jack Kelly can do on that other side of the football, or somebody else who's so effective that can make his job a little bit better. That's coming up in just a little while. All right, so first things first, though, on our NFL Roundup. 1 in 10 Utah kids faces hunger, but you can help. The Feed Utah campaign starts up a bag of non-perishable food donations on your doorstep on Saturday morning by 9 a.m., March 16th. Not tomorrow, but next Saturday, the 16th of March. Those non-perishable foods are going to help the Utah Food Bank, Macy's, Grocery, and Lynn's all fight hunger statewide. So let's do it. Let's take advantage. We're the best state when it comes to donating and being charitable. So let's do it, and let's show them how we can show up and show out on those. It's utahfoodbank.org/feedutah. That's utahfoodbank.org/feedutah. All right, so first things first here on the NFL Roundup. Drake May appears to be now the betting favorite for number 2. I heard all sorts of crazy stuff last week, JJ, where it was like, oh no, hold on a minute, hold the phone, because Jaden Daniels might take Caleb Williams' spot as the number 1 guy.
Right.
And now in true draft fashion, or in true like post combine fashion, you have GMs who are putting a message out there. I don't know what to believe and what's not. So we're agents. And Drake May apparently now, when Vegas gets a hold of it, Drake May might go number 2 in front of Jaden Daniels. That's a wild thing to think. Now, Drake May's been on everybody's radar for the past couple of drafts. He's been a guy who people have said, no, he's going to be the guy coming up. So thoughts on him and what he could bring you versus what Jaden Daniels
Well, this is no surprise. Caleb Williams and Drake May have been 1 and 2 since last year, since before last season. Mm-hmm. Everyone projected these two would be the top 2 picks in the draft, and here we are. And it doesn't surprise me that this comes out, but I think Jaden Daniels has been the wild card because he won the Heisman Trophy, because he had such an incredible season at LSU, and he showed a lot of things that maybe he wasn't able to do at Arizona State. Suddenly the NFL GMs and scouts have a different opinion of him. Certainly a more dynamic player than Drake May. It's funny, Drake May just feels solid to me. He's not going to do the crazy stuff that Caleb Williams does. He's not the freak athlete that Jaden Daniels is.
A year ago,
but he's going to be solid. And I'm not saying he's not an athlete. We're splitting hairs between these are the best quarterbacks in this class in football. You're really splitting hairs here. But Drake May just feels more solid. I mean, almost Brock Purdy-ish to me. That's my opinion.
But number 2 overall. Instead of number 266.
Would you rather have Drake May or J.J. McCarthy?
See, I don't know, because I have no idea what to think now at this point. Because I've been convinced on J.J. McCarthy, even though I've been like, yeah, right. But I don't know, Drake May, he played for Mac Brown at North Carolina. He has the prototypical look of a quarterback, right? They're 6'4", 220 pounds.
You know what I'm saying is he looks the part.
Yeah.
His numbers are good.
Now, Jaden Daniels, I will take people back to a time not that far back. How long has he been playing for? It was just the 1 year with. Was
it 2?
Or was it 2?
Yeah, 2 with LSU. Yeah.
So when he left ASU, Do you remember the middle fingers and the pictures of people throwing garbage in his old locker at ASU?
Nobody was sad that he left at Arizona State.
No.
That was really, really crazy.
Now it's wild. Now, again, his best years were his freshman year, and then obviously the last 2 that he had at LSU was a huge part of this. And so, and 40 touchdowns and 4 picks was by far his best production last year. And,
it's crazy how much better his numbers were from 2022 to 2023.
You win the Heisman Trophy, you're going to get noticed, right? But it's funny how the opinions of somebody can change within 18 months. No one cared. By the way, no one was tripping over themselves to try to sign him. Brian Kelly was like, I'll see what we can do with you. And, they did. They get him into let me tell you right now who the darling is of spring football. Cam Ward down at Miami.
Yeah.
Like 3 days in, it's like all I'm seeing on my timeline is check out Cam Ward's accuracy. Just a stud. And you're like, this is his third school, right?
How many Miami quarterbacks have been hyped up over the last 20 years that we can't even name, including Jay Keeps?
Oh, my God. Well, Jay Keeps again.
I'm not trying to take shots
did
at
the
Jay
whole.
Keeps,
He did the old school third team situation.
Just
right?
because you go to Miami doesn't make you better.
No.
Like, it's the second somebody goes to Miami or Florida State from somewhere, it's like, oh, they're really going to take off now. Just because they went to that school, just because you go to Miami doesn't mean you're going to be great.
I'll tell you what, I'm not a big Jerry Jones guy, but I will buy the unauthorized Jerry Jones biography that's supposed to come out in 2026.
Unauthorized.
Unauthorized is way better than authorized,
Jerry
right?
doesn't want you to read.
Right. And when the biographers go, I asked him if he wanted this to be his biography, his autobiography. And of course, like, was Phil Mickelson going to go, yeah, sure, do my autobiography? No, I was like, no, I'm not going to let you expose how much of a gambling problem I have. No, I'm not going to expose that I'm going to go to the Live Tour for X amount of dollars to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of a bad guy. I don't want you to know about that.
It's way cooler, man, to be an unauthorized biography. I'm all for it. I will buy that thing all day long. Okay. Did I mention that Russell Wilson's meeting with the Giants and the Steelers?
Earlier in the show, but let's revisit that.
You tell me right off the bat why he wouldn't be better than Kenny Pickett.
Because he hasn't been the last year. Kenny Pickett's been better.
Come on. Really?
Look at Russell Wilson's numbers.
Did Parker just do the tiny hands thing? Is that what he just did? He went like this, but he was doing tiny hands because Kenny Pickett has small hands.
Kenny Pickett's 23, Russell Wilson's 35. Right?
He's also a Super Bowl champion and former All-Pro.
He was. Was is the key word. Hasn't been the last. He wasn't.
You are just. All this is
look, you're a Seahawks fan. How good was he his last couple of years? Be honest.
But listen, you're a Broncos fan, and so you don't want him to see. You don't want him to be successful. I get it.
You know what? If Russell Wilson goes to the Steelers and they win the AFC, whatever.
Oh, God bless you. Yeah,
whatever.
Right. What do you mean, whatever? That would be at the expense of the Broncos not winning the AFC. Come on.
Will Russell Wilson be a starting quarterback in the NFL in 2024? Yes or no?
I think so, yeah. And you know what?
Where?
At the New York Giants. Why wouldn't he be a better situation than Daniel Jones? You think
because they're going to take J.J. McCarthy in the draft at number 6.
Awful. All right.
I'm telling you.
Fine.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
It's coming.
By the way, Monday, Hans and Scotty are going to be joined by my old radio partner, Ethan Millard, with Teton Wealth. It's going to be there live in studio with Hans and Scotty, help you in your retirement and plan your retirement. Let's figure it out. You can visit them at retireteton.com. We'll take a break. Nate Orchard, the mayor of Sac Lake City, he's going to take off one hat of Advanced Window Products, although that hat's always on. And then he's going to put it on and start talking to us about what his time was like at the University of Utah. How did you treat spring as an underclassman, as a returning starter, versus how do coaches treat it? Spring versus fall. I've got all these questions for the mayor of Sac Lake City. That's all coming up next right here, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right. Welcome back. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. We are at the home show here at the Mountain America Expo Center here in Sandy. We're at the Advanced Window Products booth, more importantly. And we were just having a conversation off the air here with Nate Orchard, mayor of Sac Lake City. Nate, before we get into Jake telling us what he could power clean when he was in college, let's have a conversation. I think it's funny because like the guy who has all the crazy accolades is not going, yeah, but I could bench. But I'm over here going, I could bench 300. I could power clean 300.
I'm the old guy that can't do it. I'm the has-been that's like having to like hang on to something.
It's the only thing I have.
I'm around Nate all day.
Will you give this to us?
Like, please.
Will you give this to us? We could lift some weights in high school. I could squat a lot, all right?
Hey, JJ and I are just sitting back like, man, we'll let him take it. We know who runs the weight room, huh, JJ?
That's
we
right.
got this, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
How dare you guys. See, but this is perfect. Quarterback attitude from high school. You got the NFL guy who goes, no big deal. Because, look, no one at the combine goes, what's your power clean rep?
Right.
No one cares. What was your 225 bench at the combine, though?
23 reps.
No problem.
No problem. That's it.
He remembered just like that.
LeBron James.
23.
You stopped at 23 on purpose, didn't you?
He gets
Very
off,
cool.
He gets off and he goes, Jordan.
Got it.
No problem. All right. Before we get into talking to people about how we can save money on windows, let's talk a little bit about what your experience was like as a kid coming out of high school from Highland, going up to the hill, going to your first spring practices maybe. Now, it's not like the old days. I don't know. I don't think you enrolled early. Maybe you did. But, like,
no.
You do 1 year. Your first time getting into things was fall camp. You're just eyes wide open. It's like saucers. And at the very least, you got something under your belt.
Right.
These kids now are coming straight out of high school, and they're playing spring ball. It's wild. What was your fall camp versus spring ball kind of experience as a player at the U?
Yeah, so my first year in was fall camp, and talk about a wake-up call and just having your world rocked, because you had guys like Star Lotulele, on the other side on the O-line. You had Tony Bergstrom, Tavita Stevens, guys who were NFL caliber, but were just studs, right? And you looked at them in the locker room and then on the field, it's like, geez, this is what I have to go against every day. Granted, I was 190 pounds, too, playing defensive end, but I could hold my own at the end of the day. So coming in, the speed of the game obviously was a lot different. But really my first spring ball is where I really understood the purpose behind, prepping for the season. It's all about understanding, your craft, what you bring to the table, and what works best for you. And so being able to, in that off-season time, work with position coaches, players like Starr, Derek Shelby. You have guys come in town like Koa Misi who would be there supporting the guys and going over drills together. So it really is a time, spring ball, is to fine-tune things, find out, okay, this is the kind of player I want to be. This is my box. This is what I'm going to work on every day to get better. And then, through the summer and then fall, fall is just a grind, man. It's where they break you, and you prepare yourself for a strenuous season, but at the same time you kind of weed the guys out who may not be who you want to be playing with, playing next to on a Saturday. But fun times, man. I miss those days, and I enjoyed it very much.
As you mentioned, you're 190 coming out of high school from Highland. You're catching passes as a receiver. I know you played a little defensive end at Highland, but you have to make a transition from 190 to 240.
Right.
How do you do that? And can you explain to people how you get in there and how that transition takes place?
Well, when you got a full-time, access to all the food you want, the resources, there's no excuse, right? And Coach Witt put the challenge on me when he brought me into his office. Like, look, I see a future for you at defensive end. You put on 50, 60 pounds, you'll make it to the NFL. And I said, okay.
No big deal, huh?
Hey, JJ, at the time, if you needed tips on how to gain 50 pounds,
look, I gained 60 pounds after high school. I didn't make it to the NFL.
Look, a double cheeseburger with the hot and spicy on top. I
always love that. We've done this long enough.
It didn't work for me.
No,
I tried it.
We've done this long enough. I know. There are guys like you. I was never that guy. There are guys who are all, I don't know, they got me on the peanut butter sandwich drip. I got an IV in of just Reese's peanut butter cups all the time, and they can't put any weight on me. I'm like, oh, boo-hoo.
Oh, that's
These guys who come in, and they're all.
Well, at the time, the Krugers had this. Paul Kruger, Joe Kruger, their dad, had this protein called Man Feed.
Oh,
have you guys ever
boy.
had Man
No,
Feed?
no.
No, so it had this it had
was a different level.
millions of chia seeds in it to help whatever with gaining weight, and so we had this Man Feed stuff that was just nasty. So I'm constantly pounding protein shakes, waking up in the middle of the night to drink a protein shake or eat a PB&J. I mean, it was a full-time
it's like
job.
Lisa's
itself.
Pizza hires Big H. They're right next to each other,
But,
so you got to.
I mean, at the end of the day, I found myself as a technician. I had good technique. I had a great high school coach in Brody Benson that helped me with, understanding that technique is everything. You can lift the whole weight room. You look like Tarzan, but you play like Jane. But as long as you can get out there and execute, that's what matters. And so, technique was everything.
Yeah, shout out to Brody Benson, one of the best high school coaches in the state here now at Woods Cross High School.
Oh, yeah.
What a job he did at Highland.
He's a Wildcat now.
That's
huh?
right.
That's what's funny is watching that transition from guys from high school to college and to see how people can handle it. Obviously, you go, I took pride in making it my job, and there's some guys who just cannot turn it around.
Well, we ask you because there's guys doing that right now at Utah, BYU, whatever, and specifically everyone's looking at Isaac Wilson. Okay, you're coming from Corner Canyon. You're up there right now. How quickly are you going to be able to make that transition? Because if something happens to Cam, heaven forbid again, you're looking right at him. It's like, okay, dude, we need you.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole other aspect to it now with the whole NIL, right? It's one thing to come in as a freshman and be like, you know what, I just get to worry about football, being a college kid, at school, having fun. But now you have the whole NIL element to it. That's just a complete distraction itself. So, I mean, these kids got a lot on their plate to handle as student athletes.
Isn't it crazy how much the game's changed just in the decade since you were a freshman?
I was just talking with a gentleman over here about, how it was illegal to take a guy out to dinner or lunch and you get in trouble for it. And now it's just like,
now
you're paying guys hundreds of thousands.
You got to do it.
Crazy.
We are at the home show here. This is a fun time for us because we get to chat with Nate.